Because if there's any pause in demand, like we've seen in places like Vancouver over the past couple of years, what happens to prices? Phew, they go right down. Well, here I am, guys, at the epicenter for Canadian money laundering, the River Rock Casino, Vancouver, Canada. Now, many of you that have read Sam Cooper's book will know that this was essentially the epicenter for the money laundering in Canada, and could still be. And as we already know, Vancouver in Canada is definitely the epicenter for money laundering, which goes into real estate and into many other parts of the economy. So you have to look around at this huge resort here and think, hold on a second, was this built by dirty money coming from Hong Kong and Macau, the Chinese triad gangs? It's absolutely crazy when you think of the scale of the money laundering in Canada. It even coined its own name, which is snow washing. Obviously, Canada has been known for this for a long time, and it's part of the reason why Vancouver real estate is so unbelievably expensive. Now, it's not the only other reason. There's a myriad of different reasons, but one of them is definitely the money laundering aspect, especially on the luxury side, because quite frankly, when you have properties that are $10–15 million, this allows for people to get an insane amount of money through the system and basically clean an insane amount of money. What's really interesting about this establishment, obviously you've had a huge casino here, and I'd never actually been here before. It's really weird to actually be here after reading about it so many times. The Willful Blindness book, it's mentioned so many times. I kind of thought of it as this rusty old establishment, and actually no, it's very new. But apparently there were Chinese triad gang members and their accomplices were coming here with duffel bags full of cash and using it, depositing it at the casino, and then playing with that money in order to wash that money. Many senior officials in the RCMP, in the BC Gaming Commission, were all just looking the other way. And it's such an interesting story. I would highly recommend that you check it out. The other thing that it shows is just how far the money laundering really goes into the system here in Canada. We often think that money laundering is this dirty thing that happens in countries like Mexico, not here in Canada. But obviously most of us on this channel know that it's a huge problem in Canada. And as with this problem is corruption. You can also see that the casino sign right there, it's also in Chinese, I think that's Cantonese, and it just kind of shows you that this is catering for Chinese people. Now, this is in Vancouver, Canada, which has a massive population of Asian people. In fact, I think it's the highest in North America, if I'm not mistaken. Now, obviously now you have the real estate collapse that is happening, and it's happening in China. So real estate was always seen as this safe haven in China, and now of course tables have turned. No pun intended, talking in front of a casino, but the tables have turned, guys, and it means the real estate bubble, which is collapsing now and happening in China, could also have huge ramifications here in British Columbia especially, but also in other cities, because little do people know there's been money laundering that has gone on in Calgary, the mansions that are sprawling outside of Calgary everywhere. You've also seen it affect the Toronto market. So, you know, these real estate markets could definitely see problems when you think of the amount of people that own them. All these foreign owners of the real estate in Toronto and in Vancouver here in Canada, also in places like Calgary. Obviously the bust that's happening in China could lead to people essentially getting a margin call and needing to sell more of their real estate in Canada, or even realizing that, hey, real estate isn't the safe haven we once thought it was. And that's the thing. Real estate isn't a safe haven when it is this distorted by money laundering, by the government, particularly using the CMHC and other vehicles here in Canada, has led to just inflated prices which you would never see anywhere else if it wasn't for these different type of programs, and if it wasn't for these different types of dirty money which has fed in through establishments like the one behind me, that has fed into the housing market. Because where else are you going to put it if you're Chinese, and even if you're a Canadian, because the Chinese culture when it comes to real estate has also filtered into Canada to a point where people think that real estate is bulletproof and you cannot lose on real estate, when the fact is we know that you can lose on real estate, and we are seeing this all the time. And I'm showing you this all the time on my channel with the video series that I've done of the unbelievable losses that we're seeing. Want to give another shout out to Shazzy, because really he is showing this on Twitter, all the losses. Even the mainstream media is following him. But that series, you go and check the comments there and you will see a mixed bag for sure of people saying, hey, it hasn't come to my area yet. But that's the crucial word that people need to add on to the end, because it hasn't come to my area yet. The thing is, unfortunately, this is going to filter into lots of markets. It's going to affect different markets in different ways. Obviously, if you have got a market that is incredibly fluffed up by money laundering, it's incredibly fluffed up by the government, those distortions eventually close in and fundamentals prevail. Because the reality is, it's fundamentals that are going to eventually prevail. This will eventually revert back to fundamentals. Because if there's any pause in demand, like we've seen in places like Vancouver over the past couple of years, what happens to prices? Phew, they go right down, because basically nobody can afford to buy a home in Vancouver. Are you kidding me? Do you really think people have got $10 million lying around? Do you think that people in Vancouver are earning that kind of money? Then just not. Yes, Vancouver is a higher income. You've got some tech entrepreneurs that are here, but even if they're earning $200,000-$300,000, they're not going to be able to afford these $10 million homes. It's very interesting what's happened, and places like Vancouver, especially with what's happened with the money laundering, with the drug crisis, with the homelessness crisis, have been completely ruined for the average person. Now, for the rich person, they live in their nice area, they don't have any of the problems, and they're all good. They have no issues. But obviously the people, the average people, the average poor and middle class person has been terribly impacted by this. And also it's sent the cost of things absolutely soaring, because the amount of new money that has been introduced into the system here, which eventually will deleverage. So it's been an honor to be here, to be in front of this River Rock resort and do this video. I never actually thought I would be here, and I'm so glad after picturing this place so many times that I was able to come here and shoot this video. Incredibly jet lagged right now. I want to thank you so much for watching, so much for supporting the channel. If you've enjoyed this video, I would highly recommend that you check out that video there. And if you're looking for a VPN, go to expressvpn.com/marketmania. A VPN will help protect your privacy. There's an affiliate link in the description. And from Vancouver, Canada, I will see you in the next one.